Hey there. Today is another Biz Tip Tuesday, and the question on the table is what's the difference between email campaigns and email automations? I'm Dr. Yam, your Keep It Simple coach. Let's get busy. Hey there, everyone. This is Dr. Yam, your Keep It Simple coach inside of Content Creation Tips and More Facebook group, as well as the Busy 9 to 5 Hive and my Facebook page, Keep It Simple Coach. So today we're going to continue on our email sequence, email series, Email 101, I like to call it. And so today we're answering the question about what's the difference in campaigns and automations, and also are there different types that I should be putting into effect in my business? So we're going to kind of cover all of those questions today. So if you haven't already done so, grab your Biz Journal or your favorite note-taking app, and then we're going to tackle this particular question. For those of you that are new to our community and space, we want to say thank you and welcome. And also know that if you are not watching from our Facebook group community, please know that you can join us over at smallbizsociety.com. Join us, and we'll be happy to leverage this and other information as we continue on with our day. All right, so the question on the table has to do with campaigns and automations and what are the differences. When we think about email marketing and management, there are essentially two different types of email strategies that you will utilize over the course of your business. And the first one we're going to cover is campaigns. Campaigns are essentially one-time events. They're what we would call a blast, if you would. So if you recall in our prior conversations, we've talked about the fact that you have your email list, and now you're growing that list with people who have opted in to an offer that you have, either a freebie or an event, what have you. And so now that you have them on the list, this is the way in which you're going to communicate with them on a routine basis. Now you'll be using both. So like I said, we're going to focus on email campaigns first, and I'm also going to take you behind the scenes on what does that look like inside of one of the platforms, maybe two actually, that I tend to use most frequently. And in prior videos inside of our library, which you can go inside of our Facebook group and you can have access to, I highlighted several different ones that you can choose from and see which one best fits your needs. We've had some conversations inside of our community about different types and what might be beneficial for one type of a business owner versus another. So check that out inside of the the Content Creation Tips and More Facebook group. So when we think about campaigns, it's that one-time email boost or blast, if you would, that you're going to send to either your whole list or, as we discussed last time, a segmented list, or a group or subset of individuals that would be useful for that bit of information. And so this means that and typically I tell this is mostly like for newsletters. And the reason why that is that it's going to be a unique one. It's not going to be something that's falling into an email sequencing, which is what email automation does. But campaigns or blasts are just that one time type of post email that you're sending out for a particular purpose. And now you can do them in advance if you like, and they're writing in the content, certainly, but it's not something that's going to have anything to follow up on. But it's certainly information that you want to share with your intended audience. So those are going to be, like I said, most time what I use it for is mostly for my newsletters and or some type of an announcement, a special or a sale. If you're doing something that's a promotion, you can send that out as a one-time deal. And those are essentially campaigns. And you can have as many as you like. Depending on the different software applications that are out there, you may also find that they may have some restrictions in the types or the amount of campaigns that you can send out in total. So be mindful of that. The rule of thumb is that when you subscribe to different email systems like MailerLite or like Content Latte, is that if your list is growing, then there's a belief that if your list is growing, then that means that you should be in growing financially as well so that you can scale. And when you scale, that means then you're going to be able to require more space or more frequencies of postings or having a larger list. And then the rates will start to go up. So that's essentially what that will do for you. Now, the other thing to keep in mind, just making sure. There we go. Um, the other thing to keep in mind with that too is campaigns have parts to them. And I'm going to go through the anatomy of email in a follow-up session. But for today, I just want to give you a sense for what a campaign looks like. So I'm going to take you behind the scenes. Give me 1 second. I'm going to open up our dashboard and I'm going to, let me see, because I got a couple different. Okay, I'm going to show you this one. Let me just share my screen real quick. And let me do this. And show you a Chrome. Here we go. Alrighty. So inside of MailerLite, as an example, and this format applies no matter if you're in or any of the other platforms. They pretty much look fairly similar in nature as far as components go. So what you're going to want to do is when you open up your platform, you're going to have a space for campaigns or blasts, whatever they're calling it. There may be something different depending on the name of the program that you're using. So I happen to be in one of the different companies. So this particular case, notice there's a difference between here we have campaigns. Now, the way that the campaign is broken out is you can, those that have already been set, you may have some that are in draft and then some that are scheduled to go out on a particular date and time. So you can front load and get things ready and do things in advance and have them scheduled to go out. So there's the benefit in always planning ahead. So you're able to do that. And then when you're doing your campaigns, you have, in this particular case, you can create a campaign and there's a couple different ways. You can do a regular campaign. It's just like I mentioned, you're just going to go in and create one with the name and the type. And there's pretty much a sequencing of steps that you're going to take. So I'm going to click here for a regular campaign first. So in opening up here, you're going to have, there's parts to your campaign. Now, in this case, we're choosing a regular campaign. So it's going to give your campaign needs to have a name. Now, this is just for internal purposes. This is not what other people will see. So I'm just going to call this Email 101 Demo, right? And then here, very important, is going to be the subject line. So this is the text that's going to display on the subject field inside that recipient's email box when they're either on their phone or on their desktop. This is what they're going to be able to see. So this one is going to be, say, create a great subject line. They will open. Now, the nice thing is it's always great to personalize whenever it's possible. And so you typically will have an ability to insert fields from the profile of your subscribers, and you'll have an option like this. So the typical one is like, put the person's first name in here. So create a subject line that will open, and then Bob is what will happen here. And then is who's it going to come from? So the name of the person or the name of the company, and then the email address is going to come to. Again, these are people who have already subscribed to your list. So it should be no surprise to them getting emails from you because they've opted in. This is not for spamming purposes. So we do know that. You have an ability, if you want to, sometimes to do some checking in your metrics. And if you want to, you can do things like track the openings when people are to see whether or not they are successful or not. And then you also can get some Google Analytic tracking that also can be utilized. And those are different topics I'll cover in a different day. So that's the first component of a regular email. Now, you'll notice that you also have, before I move forward, you also have A/B split campaigning, and then you can also do what they call an auto resend, and then there's an RSS campaign. I'm going to cover these other two in a minute. So now that you have so you start out with your subject line, you can always change it. I typically don't have mine finalized yet until afterwards, my subject line, so it's always good to go back. But now you're just going to go ahead and then you'll go and focus now on the content. Now, again, the content is going to be that body of information in which people are going to be reading from. Now, you can have an ability here, pull from a template if you have one already. You can create one from new. There's also typically templates that the platforms are going to offer. So again, choose something that you want to utilize, and then you can simply edit. Since this is the Thanksgiving holiday, I'm going to just pull this one up so I can click on it and you can preview it. And if it's the one that you like and you can do a quick edit, then you can simply do that, right? It's going to let me do it. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm in the free plan, so I can't do that. Okay, if there's anyone in here that's... All right. I'm going to choose a template here that I've done before, and you can do a new one, and then you'll just build it from scratch. But I'm just going to pick this one for right now, and I'm just going to select it. And then you're going to go inside of that body in your email, and then you'll build it out with header, subject matter. It's just like a memo. Remember, email is supposed to be conversational. So whatever it is that you want to be able to convey to your particular audience at this point in time, that's what you're going to focus on. And you'll typically have a place to put your logo, a header, if it's going to be like a memo, something that's going to be routine that you're sending out, then of course you have that type of header title, and then your salutation, and then your body of text if you want to insert pictures. Here are all the different building blocks that are typical in most of the different email platforms that you can choose from. So if you say, I want to have a picture with some text and a button, then maybe I want to sell like this, an article, you have all these different options to choose from. So I might say, I wanted to put this one in and take the plain one out, right? This would just be a plain picture. So I can take this out and now I can edit this, put in the picture that I want, edit my text. There's a place there for, if I click on it, I also have a place there that says I can have a button. So I can type here for a button, see the button appears. And then over here is the content. And this is how you can change the colors and your styling, some of which are defaulted because it's a template. And other times you can customize it to your liking. And then you'll simply write your text in your memo, have a nice slogan or tagline that you will close with, and then your signature. Always good to have. Again, we'll go through the body and an anatomy of an email sequence in another session. These are just simple parts that you'll be able to do in a quick order. And again, remember, a campaign is that one-time shot you're sending it out. Once you've done that, you're able to, of course, preview it, and then you can also test and send yourself a text, which is a test email, so that you make sure everything works good, which is always a good idea. Once you're done editing, then it's just a matter of then who are you sending it to? And as we mentioned earlier, in that segments, in your groups, and your subscribers, you want to have an idea of who you want to send this particular message to. Is it going to be to everybody? Is it only going to be to some subscribers, somebody who just attended a particular webinar? You can do those segments in those subgroups if you want. And so I'm just going to choose this one for the sake of that. And now I've confirmed it, and then you're able to then set your schedule, and then you're going to be good to go with respect to that. And that's pretty much how that one is going to work for you. Let me see if I can change this screen so you can see a little bit better. That's better. Sorry about that. So now you have your subject line is done, the content is done, you know how you want to track it, and you've chosen your recipients. And then all you have to do at that point is schedule it for time, either send it out right away, or you can send it out a little bit at a particular date and time in the future. You're able to do that. And then because some of them have more advanced feature settings that you may subscribe to, you can even get to the point where you can deliver based on the time zone. So if you say 9 a.m., it's going to be 9 a.m. for the person at Mountain Standard Time versus Pacific Time, they're going to get it at their 9 a.m. versus somebody in Australia, they're going to get it at 9 a.m. their time. So those are some up features that you can take advantage of if you choose to do so, depending on the plans that you have. Alrighty. Now, that's for the sake of argument, is as simple as it gets for sending out campaigns. And like I said, campaigns for the most part are going to be those onesies, newsletters, memos, things, announcements, things like that, that are only going to be a one email and doesn't require anything else. Now, let's go back to the campaign real quick. And one of the other functions that you have is when we talked about types of campaigns, you also have what you call A/B split campaigns. And the benefit of an A/B split campaign is that it allows you to test your audience. Now, again, give it a simple demo for Email 101. Now, how would you like to test? Or what would you like to test? Do you want to test the subject line? Do you want to test maybe who it's from? Or do you want to test maybe what's inside the email content? You can choose how you want to determine which is most effective. So I'm going to choose subject line for the sake of today, but you can certainly do from name. So sometimes you may change the name because of the campaign and to see if that works well. Or you may choose that maybe one or two different changes or differences between the inside of the email just to see which one, again, receives better by the population of people on your list. So we're going to stick with email subject. Now, when you do that, you'll have a space here for subject A and subject B. Basically, it's almost like a little contest, right? So I'm going to do this one. It's going to be demo 1. And you're going to type in that subject line because, again, subject lines are, again, ways in which you're going to be able to determine which subject line are people tend to open quicker or just open at all versus maybe another one. And so you'll see how this works in a minute. And again, so you're going to do your subject line. And then this is the subject line is going to be for this one, right? So of course you want to be as creative as you want to, as you should. We'll get into subject line writing in a different session. That's a whole nother conversation, but just to keep it simple. Again, who's it from, your language, very similar to what you did before. And that's all you really have to do at this point. And then the rest of the content is similar to what I just explained. Write your body, put your pictures, your content, whatever you want to have inside. Choose if it's going to be a template. I also have the benefit inside of MailerLite that if you've already sent an email, that it will pull up all the older emails, and then you can just take that one and make it and do a quick edit if you like. So we can select that. Yeah, keep it going for that. So I don't have anything really to do for the sake of the demo. And once that's loaded, I'm finished with my email. And now I'm going to say I'm done. Now all I have to do is schedule it. Now here's where the difference comes into play when you're doing A/B testing as an option for a campaign. And that is, you'll pick your subject line. I'm going to do the newsletter now. You'll notice now on the screen that the A/B settings is now going to appear. So what does this mean? You get to decide the test group, meaning how many of the larger group, remember I had maybe 400 or so people on the list, right? So if you want to change it so that the first 200 people are going to get the email first on that list, but only 50% of that, or 100 people of those 200, half are going to get the A subject line, and the other half of the other 100, of the 200 rather, are going to get the B subject line. The winner, meaning whichever one of the subject lines seems to have fared better than the other, is considered the winner. And then that is then what the remaining people on the list are going to get that particular subject line sent to them. That's how that works. So you get to choose then, how should a winner be chosen? Do you want to base it on when it gets based on openings or based on clicks? So if it's on the inside and there's logs or clicks, then yeah, clicks would make sense. But in our case, this is a subject line, then we're going to say that they opened it. And then you get to say, well, opened in the first hour. You can change this to duration if you want to, depending obviously on when you send it out. So timing is definitely a factor in this. So be mindful of that when you're choosing to do an A/B testing, that you do it early enough in the day where that 1 hour can take place. And then the remainder part of the group can also have just a good likelihood of opening up that email because it's in a good window of time. But again, you need to know your audience based on their demographics and their geographical locations. Sending something in the middle of the night will not necessarily get open to something maybe in the daytime for somebody in a certain time zone. So you have to kind of keep all those things in mind. But the fact here is that you can change this and simply take it down and say, I only want to do the first 15%, right? So 15% of the people, I can say, which is only going to be like 60, right? I can span that out. And then after that, whoever is the winner, the rest of the list is going to get that subject line. So now I'm finished with that. And now everything is laid up and ready to go. And it's set to schedule. And then I'll send it out for later. And then that's how this will work. And so that's how that one will work for that particular case. So now you see how using A/B testing and setting up a campaign will help you to better foster communications with your intended audience. So that's how campaigns will work for you in a couple of options. The next subject matter, let me turn this off real quick. So the next thing we're going to look at is automation. And what is that and how will that work for you? Give me one sec. All righty. Now, let's go back into the platform. So automation, what is it and why is that beneficial? So when we think about email automation, it's just that, how will you want to send out a series of emails automatically to a group of people for an intended purpose? And automation meaning that this is something that's going to go out maybe every day, every other day. It might be 7 emails. It might be 10 emails, depending on what your subjects are. So typically what I've covered in a past email, Biz Tip is talked about the most important types of emails automations that you should have set up as well. So I'm going to get my notes here real quick. So when we're thinking about automation systems or automation emails, the things that for helping you to marketing your business, it's just that it's a flow of emails that are going to be featured, that's going to enable to help you communicate with the brand that you have embarked on and people are connecting with you on, as well as kind of nurturing your group over a series of time. So the most beneficial one, and one that you certainly want to send out first, is when somebody gives you an email of themselves, is a welcome email sequence. So there's just that, a sequence of emails that you're going to send out to an individual with a series of information that will help them to get to know you better, help maybe use the product better, and or maybe engage in a subscription that you may have. They may have bought a product they may have purchased. So you're able to do those things. So the first type of experiences that you want to have with your email audience are a welcome email sequence. And this is, again, that way to really start to make the connection and helping to nurture. So I'm going to share with you what that looks like, again, on the back end from an automation standpoint. So give me one second. And let's go back to the Okay. Okay, so we're going to go back into MailerLite as an example for today. Cancel. Let me get us back to, there we go. Alrighty, so all right, now we can share. All right, so now we're going to, here we go. So now email automation. Again, it's a flow, it's a sequence of emails or a series of emails that you want to give chunks of information and kind of dole out a little at a time because you don't want to overwhelm your audience. And so when you chunk it into bits and parts, they're able to process and you're able to help them to process and maybe make a decision about maybe taking you up on another offer that you have, another event that might be coming up, any of those things. But again, like I mentioned, the most important email sequence you want to be able to send first is going to be a welcome email sequence. So what will that look like and how does that get set up? So again, each one of your email automation systems that are out there may be a little bit different, but for the most part, they will look similar. They will look something like this, where again, you're going to have these are email sequences that are already laid out and done. And then you're able here to go ahead and create a workflow. I'm going to share with you one that's already done for the sake of time. So here, I'm going to open up so you can see in an overview what does that look like. So when you're thinking about an email sequence or automation, you're going to have, here's just some basic information, how many people, this is some statistics that you're going to get. You'll get the number of workflows that you may have ran over time, and then also the actual emails themselves. So the way this is broken down is that I think I have 7. So there's 7 small emails that I dole out and chunk out over 7 days that each person will get as a welcome. And so this is what they look by name of the subject line. And then this tells you some data, how it went out, right? One of our tests that we were doing. And now, what does that look like as far as the workflow? Workflow is just what that means. It's kind of like a diagram. So, behaviors, how one automates that process for people to get the emails that you want them to see. So, let's look inside of what does a workflow look like? Okay, so here's the back end of a email automation, and what would that look like? So, right now, the first thing is what sets off an automation, meaning what's the trigger, who's going to get it and why. So in this particular sequence, because again this is a welcome email sequence, right, so we're saying when subscribers join the group, meaning that in this case they subscribe to a piece of software that we have, and so once they become a subscriber, they're automatically going to get the welcome to social balance email sequence. Okay, so we have it so that there's then an ability to do what we call a delay. Now this is on, so I'm going to turn it off so you can see the build, so it'll allow us to do that. So I'm going to turn this off. Now we're in design mode. When you're in on mode, this is what it'll look like when everything is on, and that way you're able to see the flow from beginning to end. So this is the group, meaning the name of the people on the list that when they subscribe that got tagged. We talk about tag in another session. And then they're going to wait 10 minutes, and then they're going to get this first email, and then they're going to wait a day, and they're going to get another email. Then they're going to wait another day and another email. See how that worked? A day an email, a day an email, a day an email. Over the course, they're going to get the 7 emails. Okay. And then there's little stats that come along the way when it's in on mode, and you get that statistics here. Now, on the back end, when you turn it off and you're in design mode, What does this mean? So I'm going to put it in design mode. So first thing here is that trigger box, and you'll get some settings. Again, give the workflow or the automation a name, and then that trigger. What will happen? Who's going to be getting audit to trigger this particular workflow to start it going? Start the engine, if you would. So in this particular case is when a subscriber joins a group. So remember when we talked about segmenting or how people jump into your offer or into your group, this particular person, when they subscribe and purchases a subscription to the software, then I'm going to tag them as subscriber. So that person gets subscribed into the group, and then now that's who's going to be the trigger. So when Bob subscribes, he's going to get triggered after he pays. He's going to wait 10 minutes, and then in 10 minutes, he's going to receive this first email. So then when I click on it, then you're able to then do this very same thing like you did in the campaign. You're going to give it an email name. You're going to give it a subject. You're going to say who it's from, and then you'll build out the email content, just like I showed you in the campaign. The difference is that now it's a sequence of emails. So that was email number 1. I like to use the numbers as I do it, and then you'll do the same thing. Then you add the trigger. You have different ways. I keep it real simple for the sake of today. You can add a delay, which is in this case, wait a day, wait an hour, wait 10 minutes. It could be whatever you want. There are some more advanced functionalities like a condition. When we think of a condition, we're talking about choose where to move steps, meaning that if somebody opens an email, then you may want to say if they open an email, then give them the next step over here to do. If they don't open an email, then you can say, then send them over, then we'll do something different with them. So those are conditions. So that's a little bit of an advanced functionality, but it's certainly useful to apply. It just takes a bit more time and setting up and thought to break it all down. And the same thing here is an action. So when we think about an action, then this is again when a subscriber reaches a particular action, meaning that if they clicked on a particular link inside of that email itself, then you may choose to say take them off the email sequence altogether because they went ahead and they opted in and they bought something that you might have had in the email sequence, or maybe you want to take them through a different sales funnel type of a strategy. So you're able to choose or add them as a tag. You can choose a couple different settings that are here. You can create custom files. You can move that person from one group to another group, like we talked about in segmenting. So there's different ways that you can skin that cat. So that essentially, I'm not going to save this, take this off. But when you're thinking about your email sequence, the welcome sequence is going to be one of the first things that you want to make sure you have set up. If you haven't already done so, inside of our community, I've given you a free template for your welcome email sequence. You just go in, make the edits, and then you can go inside of your email automation system and set it up and just do some copy paste and a little bit of editing, and you'll be good to go. So now that this is set up and ready, I'm going to turn this back on. So now when the next subscriber comes in, they're just going to go through that entire sequence over the first 7 days. And then that's how this particular one works. Now, you may be asking, well, are there different types of email automations that you should be doing? And the answer is yes. There are several ones to utilize. If you were inside of my recent workshop for promotional emails, and I'll send a link for that as well. But there are several different ones that you can consider to choose from. I'm gonna give you a couple to think about. The first one, let's see what I have on my list here. So of course, just told you about the welcome email. Another one's going to be onboarding email. So if you have someone who's buying a product or a service, this is a way in which you can further explain the product, the features, what they can expect. If there's a service, things that they should do, what they can expect, maybe is go ahead and book their next session with you, whatever. So this is kind of what we call onboarding, things that you would do necessarily like if they were coming to you physically, but you can create a series that are going to get them to create sets of behaviors that you want them to utilize over a period of time. Another one is going to be maybe a follow-up based on opens and clicks. So again, that automation campaign, if someone clicks on a particular email, then they went and they purchased something or they opted into something. You need to be ready to provide them with feedback or a follow-up email based on that particular behavior. If they open up something, you want to acknowledge that they've done that, so that way you're continuing to build that relationship. So follow up is another type of email sequence you can think about. If you have e-commerce, then you definitely want to have on your page what we would call cart abandonment emails. So a lot of these are already kind of built into some of the cart applications. But if not, you can also connect them with your email automation system and your cart application. So you're able to do that. In that case, if someone doesn't click the purchase button, it takes all the way through the purchase, and you know they've been abandoned, then you're able to send them a email to say, hey, you left something in your cart. Don't you want to buy it? Maybe you incentivize them and say, just for leaving something out, here's another coupon, just to kind of try to make that conversion happen quicker and sooner than not at all. And then, of course, those special event type of emails. So again, that could be maybe it's an email automation that you set up maybe to acknowledge someone's birthday, or maybe it's their buyer anniversary. Any type of special event, set that sequence up, and you can have it. Doesn't have to be long. It could simply be a one or two email. Like a birthday one is really only going to take maybe one or two emails, right? Because that's going to be the trigger. The trigger is going to be what? It's going to be the person's birth date or birth month. And then that person's going to automatically get a birthday email from you with a coupon. Those are the types of email automations that you can think about doing for your business. All righty. So that gives you a good sense, I hope, of the difference between campaigns and automations and how you can take advantage of both and then be able to adopt and bring this into your practice as you continue to build your business. If you haven't done so already, head on over to keepitsimplecoach.info. Over there, you'll find my blog and articles that speak to this. And if you haven't already done so, join me over in our Content Creation Tips and More Facebook group, where you'll see other videos, topics, matters that I cover on a routine basis, smallbizsociety.com. Until next time, this is Dr. Yam, your Keep It Simple coach. Let's get busy. Bye-bye.